Assalamu alaikum. I'm Laiba Amin from a government college, University, Faisalabad. On the behalf of organizing committee, the Applied Zoological Society of Pakistan, collaboration with ICAZ University, Islamabad. I warmly welcome all of you on the 4th International Conference on Applied Zoology 2021. I will moderate this session, which will include a talk from the topic Nutrition, Epidemiology, COVID-19, Biodiversity, Molecular Biology, and Microbiology. Let's begin our session with the first presenter, Dr. Mohammad Junaid Bakhtaldi from Nafir, Turkey. He will deliver his talk on the negative effect of climate changes on animals. Please, Dr. Mohammad Junaid Bakhtaldi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cüneyt Bağdatlı from Nevşehir Hacı Bektaş Veli University, Department of Biosystem Engineering, Associated Professor Doctor. My presentation title is The Negative Effect of Climate Change on Animals. Climate change due to global warming, which has been showing its effects seriously in recent years, has negative effects on animals. Irregular changes in the precipitation regime and the corresponding increase in temperature caused the destruction of animal fodder, pastures, and wetlands. The experienced climate change has negative effects, especially on animal distribution, migration, behavior, and nutrition. Increases in temperatures adversely affect the health and the welfare of animals. The decrease in air humidity with the lack of the precipitation leads to the occurrence of some disease on the animals. Along with climate change, some negativities are seen in animal behavior. Birds start to lay eggs earlier than normal time. Birds migrate earlier, and some bird species give up their tendency to migrate in some countries due to global warming. Mammals began to emerge from hibernation earlier. These situations affects their physiological behavior negatively. Due to global warming, the rise in the sea level causes the disappearance of the beads, which are the nesting areas of sea turtles. Warming of seawater has led to the extinction of some turtle species. Research has shown that melting glaciers in polar regions negatively affect the lives of polar bears and penguins. The drought causes extinction of insect species living in the soil. Studies have shown that increases in the greenhouse gas emission lead to the extinction of the animal species and their extinction. Measures to be taken to reduce global climate change will also reduce the negative impact of animal species and age. Climate change only a problem for humans. Today, the climate change phenomenon is considered the chief threat to humans, flora and fauna, which provokes me to discuss the problem of global warming, especially its impact on animals. In the last half century, planet Earth has been witnessing a significant difference in human life, animals, forests, and plants in the short. In all sentient beings and all aspects of the earth, animals have been hit strongly in many areas of the earth, in almost all continents. The higher air temperatures are very threatening to animals. Several countries in various areas of the world report the negative effect of climate change on air animals. Unfortunately, global warming is leading to the extinction of some animals, and more global warming means more trouble, not only for animals, but for all sentient beings as well. birds, fish, and snakes, and climate change. In Mozambique, scientists have noticed a change in the distribution of the venomous snakes because some areas are no longer suitable for the human population. As a result, the snake bite risk has increased in the central and southern regions of the country. Many species of birds depend on the environmental causes, such as the temperature and seasons change. And these causes have been changing and becoming disruptive, sending the birds' confusions cause. In addition, in the last 2 decades or so, birds have been laying their eggs earlier than usual. Animals are having shorter period of hibernation. Sea turtles are losing their nesting hours because the sea level has risen approximately 50 centimeters. Scientists have also noticed a reduction of the fish population that will be discussed briefly in the upcoming section. Unfortunately, it is predicted that many shark species will begin moving up north close to British shores because of the rise in the ocean water temperature. British waters may become home to the lives of the hammerheads and great white shark as they migrate from the Spanish coast and the Mediterranean. According to Dr. Ken Collins, a former administrator of the United Kingdom shark tagging program, climate change is moving at the alarming pace so that some whales and dolphins are unable to adjust. They no longer find food sources where they used to. As for fish, in addition to overfishing, the warming of the ocean has negatively affected 9% of the fish population. The large fish are most likely to be taken, leaving the small fish that can hardly survive in the warmer ocean waters. On the other hand, ocean acidification is harming the fish stocks in oceans. The North Sea is the home of many kinds of fish that are very important to European countries. Scientists have noticed that warming water push fish to migrate or spawn early in the year. This may expose them to more bacterial disease and parasites that become more contagious in warming waters. All of this influences the number of fish and their quality, which in turn has a great impact on the revenue of many families that survive on fishing. Animals affected by climate change. In Africa, for example, in Africa, elephants are very sensitive to the rising temperatures and consequently they are subject to new disease. They also need larger amounts of water, which is also becoming scarce because of the drought and the desertification. At the North Pole, the ice is melting rapidly, which threatens the lives of polar bears due to more limited access to their food. My presentation is completed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammad Junaid Bakhtalti, for such a nice and superb presentation. It's really very impressive. Now moving towards our second presenter, Shumaila Mehdi from a Government College, University Faisalabad. She will deliver her talk on topic anti-diabetic activity of Paribus brandisiana is possibly mediated through modulation of coumarin and adipocytokinase in high-fat diet and streptozotocin-administered rats. Please, Shumaila Mehdi.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shumaila Mehdi and I am lecturer here in Department of Pharmacology, Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Government College, University, Faisalabad, and also doing PhD in Pharmacology in the supervision of Dr. Malik Hassan Mahmood. So the topic of my presentation is anti-diabetic activity of Berberis brandisiana is possibly mediated through modulation of camerin and adipocytokines in high-fat diet and streptozotocin administered rats. Obesity and diabetes are paramount recurrent endocrine metabolic diseases that are characterized by hyperglycemia and impaired insulin action and secretion, that is insulin resistance. So risk factors are genetic predilection, obesity, desk mount lifestyle, consumption of high-fat diet, and insulin resistance. Diabetes and obesity is accompanied by various metabolic complications, including dyslipidemia, hyperglycemia, increased level of circulating pro-inflammatory cytokines, and prevalence and complication is that obesity is rapidly growing global pandemic, which has almost tripled since 1975. As of 2016, more than 1.9 billion adults alone having aged more than 18 years were overweight, and of these, over 600 million were classified as obese. So oxidative stress is also associated with overproduction of reactive oxygen species, plays an important role in the development of diabetic complications. Presently available oral hypoglycemic drugs have limitations, and hence search for new drugs is defensible. Medicinal plants and their bioactive constituents are commonly used worldwide to control diabetes and its complication due to their non-toxic nature, availability, and affordability. So WHO has recommended the use of traditional plants for the treatment of chronic and life-threatening diseases, including diabetes mellitus. So that's why the aim and objective of my study was chemical characterization of the test material. The name of the plant is Berberis brandisiana, to identify the anti-diabetic activity of Berberis brandisiana on high-fat diet as streptozotocin induced diabetes, and to evaluate the effect of plant on pro-inflammatory cytokines level. Here is some description about my plant. That plant is a member of Berberiaceae family, and the genus Berberis is a major dicotyledon genus. And the famous vernacular name of the plant is Ishkeen and Shukru. These are the traditional uses, in which diabetes is also the traditional use of the plant, but is not validated yet. HPLC analysis of my plant shows that presence of various flavonoids and phenolic acids, that quercetin and gallic acid, and phenolic acids are vanillic acid, phenolic acid, benzoic acid, capric acid, syringic acid, chlorogenic acid, p-cumaric acid, m-cumaric acid. First of all, the plant is collected and was purchased from Gilgit-Baltistan area of Pakistan. After that, plant extract was prepared by maceration and evaporation by 30-70 ratio. Of 30 is water or aqueous, and 70% is methanol. So that is aqueous methanolic extract. The final filtrate was air dried, and respective percentage yield was calculated for the crude extract of the plant. So rats weighing 180 to 200 gram of either sex were used in study. Animals fed with a high-fat diet for 4 weeks, followed by injection of freshly prepared streptozotocin 40 milligram per kg, that is dissolved in 0.1 molar citrate buffer. Next, the phytochemical analysis was done, and estimation of in vitro antioxidant activity was also done. That phytochemical analysis, total flavonoid content, determination of total phenolic content, high pressure liquid chromatography analysis, and estimation of in vitro antioxidant activity, DPPH radical scavenging assay, hydrogen peroxide scavenging activity, reducing power assay. Here is the experimental design of my study, that there are 9 groups. One is control, one is diabetic. Diabetic is having the high fat diet, 40% high fat diet for 4 weeks, and after 4 weeks, the one intraperitoneal injection of streptozotocin 40 milligram per kg was given. And after that, if the level of glucose is more than 250, so those animals were considered as a diabetic, and they used for the further study, and they are treated with the plant. Biochemical testing, insulin, diabetic parameters, as well as LFTs, RFTs, lipid profile, inflammatory biomarkers, blood pressure, antioxidant assays, and histopathological studies was done. These are the results and effect of test material on the diabetic parameter. There is a significant decrease in the level of insulin in the diabetic animal. while the significant increase of glucose, glycosylated hemoglobin, and systolic blood pressure in the diabetic animals which are having the high fat diet plus hepatocytin injection, while there is a significant decrease in the level of glucose, glycosylated hemoglobin, systolic blood pressure, and significant increase in insulin in the treated animals which are treated with the plant and the compound. Next is the effect of aqueous methanolic extract of Berberis frandisiana on lipid profile. So there is a significant increase in the total cholesterol, triglycerides, and LDL level, while significant decrease in the HDL level of the diabetic animals. When they are treated with the plant and the compound, there is a significant decrease in the total cholesterol and triglycerides and LDL level, whereas significant increase in the HDL level of the treated animals. And effect of aqueous methanolic extract of my plant on oxidative stress. So there is a significant decrease in the MDA, CAT, and SOD enzyme levels in the diabetic animals, while when they were treated with the plant and the compound, there was significant increase in the level of MDA, CAT, and SOD, showing the antioxidative activity. So next is the effect on the LFTs, liver function test, and renal function test. So there is a significant increase in the AST, ALT, urea, and creatinine level in the diabetic rats. And when they were treated with the plant and the compound, there was a significant decrease in the level of AST, ALT, urea, and creatinine, showing the effect on the liver as well as the kidney. So there are the result of effect of aqueous methanolic extract of test material on TNF-alpha, IL-6, gamma-rin, adipocytokines in controlled diabetic and treated rats. So as the graph shows that in TNF-alpha, IL-6, leptin, and gamma-rin, there's a significant increase in the level of TNF-alpha, IL-6, leptin, and gamma-rin in the diabetic rats. While when they were treated with the plant and the compound, there is significant decrease in the level of TNF-alpha, IL-6, leptin, and gamma-rin to show its effect on the pro-inflammatory cytokines as well as the, you can say, adipocytokines. When we talk about the adiponectin, there is a significant decrease in the level of adiponectin when there is a diabetes or obesity. And when they were treated with the plant and the compound, there is significant increase in the level of adiponectin in the treated animals, showing the effect on the pro-inflammatory cytokines or adipocytokines. So show its effect on the obesity and diabetes. So these all data, the research also shows that Berberis brandisiana possesses anti-diabetic activity, possibly mediated through its positive influence on diabetic parameters, which were glucose level, insulin level, glycosylated hemoglobin, and systolic blood pressure, and also modulation in the gamma-rin, adipocytokines, leptin, and adiponectin, and TNF-alpha and IL-6, and also on the oxidative stress, that is enzymes, SOD, CAT, and MDA. So thus this study provides a rationale for the medicinal use of Berberis brandisiana in the diabetes. So this is all about my presentation, and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Shumaila Mehdi from a government college, University Faisalabad, for nice presentation. Now moving towards our next presenter, Akila Azim from the Shaheed Benazir Bhutto Women's University. She will deliver her talk on the topic, the prevalent complication associated with hemodialysis. Please, Akila Azim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Akila Azam. I am a student at Shaheed Benazir Bhutto Women University, Peshawar, where I am an MPhil candidate at Zoology Department. What I would like to present to you today is my research about the prevalent complication associated with hemodialysis. Here is an introduction. Dialysis is a treatment that filters and purifies the blood using a machine. This helps keep body fluids and electrolyte in a balance when the kidneys can't do their job. There are two types of dialysis, hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. Hemodialysis is a process in which a machine called dialyzer are used to clean the blood, whereas peritoneal dialysis is a dialysis technique that uses the patient's own body tissues inside the abdominal cavity as a filter. Dialysis has been used since the 1940s to treat people with kidney problems. The objectives of this study are to find out complications and side effects of dialysis therapy on kidney patients' health and the occurrence of complications in different age group among dialysis patients. Here is the methodology. It was a quantitative study conducted at Nawaz Sharif Kidney Hospital, Sawat. The period is November 2020 to December 2020. The participants of the study were 200 regular hemodialysis patients. Data were collected according to the structured questionnaire by asking the questions from their regular dialysis patient. Here are the result of the studies. There were total 200 patients. Among them, 114 were male and 86 were female, which further divided into different group on the basis of their age difference. The first group consists of patients who are aged in between 10 to 20, and the second group is consists of patients who are aged in between 20 to 40, and the third consists of the patients who are aged in between 40 to 60, and the third group is consist of the patients who are aged in between 60 to 80, and the last group is consist of patients who are aged in between 80 to 100. The first complications was the first complication observed was weight loss. Among the total of female patients, 47 female patients were complaining about losing weight during dialysis therapy, whereas 42 male patients were complaining about weight loss during dialysis. Hence, it shows that females lost more weight as compared to male patients during dialysis. Here are the common complications which were found mostly in each patient. The first one is muscle cramp. There were 176 patients who were complaining about muscle cramp during dialysis therapy, and 165 patients who were complaining about body pain during dialysis, and 115 patients were complaining about abdominal pain during and after dialysis therapy. The another complication was pruritus, which were also more in female patients as compared to male patients. There were 47 female patients who were complaining about having pruritus during dialysis, and 42 patients were complaining about having pruritus. Male patients were complaining about having pruritus during dialysis. It's indicated again that female patients were more prone to these complications as compared to male patients. And here the another graph which shows the physical activity of patients. Here you can see that among the patients, children are more active as compared to the other age group patients during or after starting the dialysis patients. But the old age group patients were mostly complain about not working after starting the dialysis. They cannot perform their daily activities after starting the dialysis process. So it concluded that age is also a factor of occurring of this complication during dialysis. And the last one is blood pressure. Blood pressure is again female patients were more blood pressure. It's low blood pressure. During the dialysis therapy, the blood pressure dropped to low level. Here is the female patients were more complain about low blood pressure during dialysis as compared to male patients. So it's again indicated that this complication is more in female as compared to male patients. Uh, so here is the conclusion. It is concluded that various complications are associated with hemodialysis. It has been observed that old age is an important factor leading to complication during dialysis. However, there is a difference in age, in gender, because it shows that female patients more prone to complication as compared to male patients. It is important to consider all these complications, and there is a need for improvement of the dialysis procedure. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Akila Azim, for informative talk. Now moving towards our next presenter of this session, Qudsiya Tahir Awan from a government college, University Faisalabad. She will deliver her talk on topic isolation and characterization of bacteria causing European foul brood disease and efficacy of antibiotics for it from the European honeybee Apis mellifera colunis. Please, Qudsiya Tahir Awan.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee of ICAZ-2021 for providing my active research work to the scientific community through a platform. My name is Qudsiya Tahir Awan from the Department of Zoology, Government College University, Faisalabad, and the topic of my research work is isolation and characterization of the bacteria causing European foul brood disease and the efficacy of antibiotics for it from European honeybee Apis mellifera colunis. European honeybee Apis mellifera is one of the first domesticated insects that not only provide us honey, bee wax, royal jelly, venom, propolis, etc., and is also an important pollinator of crops. Like all the other organisms, it is also vulnerable to attack by protozoa, viruses, bacteria, microsporidia, fungi, parasitic mites, and pests. European foul brood and American foul brood are the two economically important bacterial diseases of the honeybee brood that are listed by OIE. European foul brood is an intestinal infection of Apis mellifera brood, particularly larva, that is caused by gram-positive anaerobic non-spore-forming bacterium Liscococcus plutonius. It is reported that a number of standing invaders might be a reason for colonies expressing European foul brood disease-like symptoms because dead larvae are a potential growth site for many microorganisms. For sustainable and economically viable beekeeping, several benefit techniques are used, such as animating hygiene usage of bees, use of the sanitizing mulches, choke swarm method, burning of the colonies, decleaning of badly infected colonies, use of resistant bee lines, and the use of the antimicrobials and antibiotics. In America, Canada, and several other countries, antibiotics are frequently used for the treatment of European foul brood. However, as there is no minimum residue limit set for the sheer portion of such substances in honey, therefore it is not recommended overall. Oxytetracycline is the only approved drug treatment for the control of European foul brood. However, it has shown resistance towards Panibacillus larva, that is the causative agent of the American foul brood. Therefore, a decline in its uses has been seen by the beekeepers. Therefore, this study was planned to isolate and characterize the bacteria causing European foul brood disease and to evaluate the efficacies of the antibiotics against the foul brood disease causing agent and to determine the minimum inhibitory concentration of antibiotics against the isolate. For this study, 4 antibiotics were selected, that is oxytetracycline, streptomycin, ciprofloxacin, and amoxicillin, belonging to the 4 distinct classes of antibiotics. In methodology, 22 disease larval material samples that were showing European foul brood disease symptoms were collected from Punjab, near to the 4 sampling sites near to the Faisalabad, that is Hafsabad, Sheikhupura, Shahkot, and Ankana. After that, they were brought to the Government College University Faisalabad Research Lab for the isolation of the bacteria on the mutant agar medium. At the same time, some isolates were preserved in the form of slants, and 3 modes of identification were used: morphological, biochemical, and molecular. For morphological identification, these are the characteristics that were measured. For biochemical identification, gram staining and catalyst production tests were performed, and for molecular identification, that is 16 as rapid and gene sequencing analysis of the selected bacterial isolates, they were sent to Humanizing Genomics Microgen Center, Korea. After that, antibacterial susceptibility testing was performed by using either Welder fusion method, and minimum immunity concentrations were measured by broad macro-relation method. These are few of the glimpses of the sampling site location, and these are few of the symptoms that were in the favor of the indication of European foulbrood disease within the homes of the Epithelial colony. These are the overall morphological identification results of the 22 isolates. The sizes of the colonies measured were in the range from 1 to 6.5 millimeter, and maximum number of isolates, that is 15, were having medium-sized colonies. These are two major variations among the colonies observed in 22 isolates. Few colonies were having off-white color and opaque optical density, and few colonies were having dull white color and translucent optical density. These are few of the margins that were observed for the 22 isolates. Few isolates were having entire margins, some were having wavy or undulate and slightly irregular margins. These are the overall results of the biochemical identification of the 22 isolates. Most of the bacteria were gram-positive and cocci-shaped. However, few dot-shaped bacteria and gram-negative bacteria were also observed. All the isolates were negative to catalase production test. These are the results of the antibacterial susceptibility testing of the 22 isolates against the four-selected antibiotics. The stock solution of antibiotics was prepared at 500 mg of antibiotics in 10 ml distilled water, and 10 microliter of this solution is used for susceptibility testing, that is with concentration 50 microgram per ml. These highlighted ones are the maximum and the minimum zone of inhibition produced by each antibiotic, and the isolate number 16 showed resistance to amoxicillin, and isolate number 12 showed resistance to oxytetracycline. By observing the mean average zone of inhibitions, ciprofloxacin was found to be highly effective for 22 isolates with maximum zone of inhibition, that is 32.18 millimeter, followed by streptomycin, oxytetracycline, and amoxicillin. After that, isolate number 12, 16 being resistant to oxytetracycline and amoxicillin, and isolate number 21 being highly sensitive to ciprofloxacin for 16 as ribosomal and gene sequencing, dehumanizing genomics, macros, and central Korea. The results of the report showed that isolate number 12 and 16 is Citrobacter melanoticus, and isolate number 21 is Serratia nematodiphylla. These are few of the statistical analysis results. Bar graphs were made for 22 isolates against each antibiotic zone of inhibition. Zones are being produced against each antibiotic. And the pie graph represents the maximum number of isolates, that is 41%, were having zones of inhibition in the range from 30 to 33 millimeters, showing that they are moderately sensitive to ciprofloxacin. For streptomycin, 32 number of isolates. Maximum number of isolates were having zones of inhibition 26 to 28 millimeter in range, showing that they are also moderately sensitive to streptomycin. For oxytetracycline, maximum number of isolates, that is 41%, were having zones of inhibition in the range 24 to 26 millimeter, showing that they are slightly more sensitive to oxytetracycline. And for amoxicillin, 36% isolates were moderately sensitive to amoxicillin. This is the comparative overall multiple bar graph representing the zones of inhibition of 22 isolates against the 4 antibiotics. Average zones of inhibition of the antibiotic measured against 22 isolates subjected to comparative analysis by one ANOVA and Turkish test was statistically significant. By measuring the minimum immunity concentration, 50 microliters of stock solution was dissolved in distilled water to make up the total volume of 50 ml. This was the overall pattern that was planned for measuring minimum immunity concentration. Antibiotic solution was used with decreasing concentration, and broth was used with increasing concentration to get the overall concentration of antibiotic at 300 microgram per ml, 20 to 40, 180, 120, 60, and 0 microgram per ml. Results after optical densities were measured in spectrophotometer after 24 hours of incubation shows the minimum inhibiting concentration of ciprofloxacin as 120 microgram per ml, streptomycin as 180 microgram per ml, and oxytetracycline and amoxicillin as 240 microgram per ml. Therefore, it was concluded from the study that the Citrobacter melanoticus and Serratia nematodiphylla, two pathogenic bacteria, were the causative agent for the European foulbrood disease-like symptoms in the hive, and these symptoms were not because of the causative agent of European foulbrood Meliscococcus plutonius. And then ciprofloxacin, being highly effective for the isolates, is recommended to beekeepers. However, prophylactic use of antibiotics is always discussed. For further recommendation, it is recommended that the further efficacy of the antibiotic should be checked in the field test. That's all from my research work. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Zahira Awan from the Government College, University, Faisalabad, for such a wonderful talk. Now moving towards our next speaker, Zahira Maqbool from the Government College, University, Faisalabad. She will deliver her talk on topic Impact of Plant-Derived Components on Dairy Products Development.
Going to discuss about the impact of plant-derived components on dairy product development. So, starting from the definition of milk, actually milk is lactose secretion, practically free combustion, that is obtained by complete milking of one or more healthy cows. Milk is the food with exclusively sustained as during the first few months of life. The term milk is also used for the white color, non-animal beverage resembling like soya milk, rice milk, and almond milk. So, discussing about the composition of milk, milk contains water about 87 to 88%, carbohydrate that is approximately 5%, and in carbohydrates there are mainly lactose, and in the case of condensed milk there is lactulose. Fat is 3 to 4% that contain the fat soluble vitamins, pigments, carotenes, xanthophyll. It contains cholesterol and phospholipids, but primary digits that is 95%. The fat in the milk occur in the form of droplets or globules. Protein is 3 to 4%. Casein is about 80%. The casein is arranged in superstructure card micelles, which are consist of the protein together with phosphate, citrate, and calcium. Whey protein is 20%, and it includes lactoalbumin, lactoglobulin, immunoglobulin. Whey proteins are more hydrated than casein. Vitamins and minerals are vitamin A, B, B12, C, D, K, and E, thiamine, niacin, biotin, riboflavin, folates. Vitamin A is naturally in fat components of the whole milk, and whole milk is generally 98% fortified with vitamin D as it is naturally present in a small amount. Minerals are calcium, phosphorus, approximately 1% of the milk. Calcium is present in the calcium caseinate, calcium phosphate, calcium citrate. Other minerals present are chloride, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and sulfur. Plant-derived components are healthy and natural sources of life. These are particularly from the medicinal plants are important of having properties of curing various diseases and advantage of being natural. Plant secondary metabolites are rich source of bioactive compounds providing many beneficial health benefits. Most common bioactive compounds present in the plants are phytochemicals, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. Phytochemicals are a class of compounds that are only in the plants and generally the oils of fruits contain large amount of organic acids, sugars, mineral, vitamins, but the peel contain high amount of phenolic compounds. So here are some examples of phytochemicals from different plant sources like turmeric, grapes, and garlic, strawberries, etc. Phytochemicals are mainly divided in classes like carotenoids, alkaloids, nitrogen-containing compounds, organic, organosulfur compound, and the further phenolics are divided in subclasses. The type of antioxidants are polyphenols. Polyphenols are the most abundant antioxidant in the plants and have excellent ability to capture oxidative free radicals and can be classified into flavonoids, phenolic acid, and tannins depending upon their physical structure. Flavonoids can be isolated from the vegetables, fruits, and rice. And the class of the polyphenolics have low redox potential oxygen superoxide radicals, making these antioxidants better suited to bind active oxygen, tannins, and alkaloids. Tannins are widely distributed in the plant and usually refer to the plant's polyphenols. Oxidant ability of the tannin is related to the position and binding mode of phenolic hydroxyl groups. Alkaloids are strong antioxidants with complex structure. The more nitrogen atoms they are exposed in the heterocyclic structure, the easier it is to combine with the reactive oxygen and free radicals. Now, here we will discuss about the impact on dairy products. Functional properties of dairy products are only improved by correcting their composition of the fatty acid, amino acid, and mineral, as well as fortifying with micronutrients. It improves the taste, texture, and flavor. Combining milk with the plant's components allow to regulate component content of the vitamins, carbohydrate, minerals, and dietary fiber in the product. In addition, dairy products are pronounced plant taste and smell as well as attractive appearance. Using biologically active compounds obtained from the plant material, including medicinal plants, is a promising direction in the production of medicinal, preventive, and functional properties. The antioxidant properties of plant extracts not only protects the product from spoilage, but also prevent the action of free radicals in the human body, slowing down the process of aging. And plants do it directly by absorbing the photons of the light, and its internal filters direct protect sensitive food components by removing free radicals and preventing photodegradation and oxidation. It improves the nutritional value. Thyme extract is used in the milk range due to a large content of anthocyanins and flavonoids in addition to the above compounds. Other sources of vitamins, macrotraces, essential amino acids, and dietary fiber, including peanuts, walnuts, salty peppermint, and several examples. A high antioxidant index was also found in the pomegranate, oranges, lemon, apples, and pomelo, which makes a good additive of the milk. Enhance the shelf life way is widely used in the dairy product. A great interest possibility of expanding the range of whey-based rank, fortifying them with the plant extracts rich in biologically active substances with antioxidant properties can help to prevent a number of pathological conditions like stress, arteriosclerosis, myocardial infarction, and other increase in the product shelf life. So the conclusion of the whole presentation is the functional milk-based drinks enriched with the plants components are promising direct in the dairy industry. They improve immune system and can also used to help support therapy and also suitable for daily use to replenish the balance of essential nutrients. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Zahira Maqbool from a Government College, University of Faisalabad, for such an educative talk. Now moving to our next speaker, Salma Faro from the Koharsh University of Science and Technology. She will deliver her talk on topic synthesis of zinc oxide nanoparticles using Zingiber officinale legume and their antibacterial activity against multi-drug resistance bacteria. Please, Salma Faro.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Myself Salma Faro. I'm a scholar, microbiology from Kohat University of Science and Technology. Today I present the topic of synthesis of zinc oxide nanoparticle using Zingiber officinale legume and their antibacterial activity against multi-drug-resistant bacteria. Now these are the table content life introduction, rationale, objective, material method, result, and conclusion. We discuss all of these steps. First of all, we discuss introduction. In introduction, antibiotic resistance by microorganisms is a global issue that needs proper attention to resolve, as most of the deaths occur due to the infection caused by MDR bacteria. These pathogenic organisms like Escherichia coli, Staphylococcus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Klebsiella, and Shigella are responsible for bacterial infection in human beings as well as in animals. So nanotechnology is one of the key areas in modern research among the metal oxide nanoparticles. Zinc oxide is interesting because it exhibiting high pathologic efficiency and are used frequently as antimicrobial agent. So green synthesis using plant extracts are commonly preferred for the synthesis of zinc oxide nanoparticles due to the environmental friendly nature, cost effectiveness, and safe nature for the human therapeutic use. So this is the rationale. The present research study focuses on synthesis of zinc oxide nanoparticles from the legume extract of Zingiber officinale and then determine its antibacterial potential to enhance the activity of commercially available antibiotic against MDR bacterial isolates. Also, these are our objectives. Number one, fabricate and characterize zinc oxide nanoparticles using Zingiber officinale legumes. Number two, determine the antibacterial activity of zinc oxide nanoparticle against MDR bacterial isolate. Number three, evaluate of nanoparticles accused antibiotic discipline enhancing antibacterial activity. Now, The next one is material method, collection of multi-drug resistant material isolates taken from the culture collection of the Department of Microbiology Research Laboratory Trust. Second one is collection and processing of ginger occasional legume. So the ginger was cut with the help of knife and dried, sheeted dry for 1 week. So the dry legume and blended into powder form. So the extracted powder kept in that and water for phytochemical analysis. So the qualitative analysis of ginger occasional legume like anthraxine, equus, and methanol were analyzed for different phytochemicals constitute like alkaloid, flavonoid, and polyphenolic compound using standard procedure. So the fourth one is preparation of zinc oxide nanoparticle because zinc acetate and dehydrate 0.1 mole were taken and dissolved in 50 ml water, then dissolve 1 gram of extract. So for maintenance of pH, then add few drop of anions and place in a shaker for 2 hours. For after shaking, place in centrifuge and then placed in incubator at 80 degrees Celsius. Then we get powder form of zinc oxide nanoparticle. In characterization, use a UV, SEM, scanning electron microscopy, ADS, and FTIR. And preparation of antibiotic base coated with zinc oxide nanoparticles. So about 20 milligram of zinc oxide nanoparticle powder dissolved in 1 ml of distilled water. So about 5 milliliter of suspension picked with the help of pipette and each antibiotic disc will be coated with it. So in the bitter bed containing coated disc covered with the lid and kept in oven at 80 degrees centigrade. So the last one is this diffusion assay for zinc oxide nanoparticle coated and non-coated antibiotics. So the both zinc oxide coated and non-coated antibiotic disc were applied against each bacterium in Miller had the agar plates, and these plates are placed in incubator at 37 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. Then observe zone of elevation. So the next one is a result. Uh, we discuss antibiotic sensitivity test. So antibiotic sensitivity test of all which isolate were tested against different antibiotics like ceftazidime, clarithromycin, cephradime, metronidazole, and amoxicillin. So in this, the results show that bacterial strain like Shigella, Enterobacter, Pseudomonas, Proteus, E. coli, Klebsiella were completely resistant against amoxicillin, metronidazole, and cephradime. In the next slide, Shigella, Enterobacter, and Staphylococcus are more susceptible as compared to other bacterial strains against equus and methanolic extract. The next one is characterization. So UV spectrophotometer analysis of zinc oxide nanoparticle. So in UV, they showed sharp peak that confirm the synthesis of zinc oxide nanoparticle and also their involvement with the natural reducing agent present in the root extract. The next one is SEM, scanning electron microscopy. In this image of zinc oxide nanoparticle, observe loose morphologically aggregates, irregular and cubical with various sizes. The next one is FTIR. So FTIR analysis determines the presence of biological molecule, specifically functional groups present in the plant extract of zinc oxide. So this analysis clearly determined that the link of plant metabolite to the synthesis of zinc nanoparticle, that the positively charged zinc ions and negatively charged biomolecules are responsible for the
Thank you, Salma Faro, for amazing presentation. Let's move towards our next presenter, Vishan Yusuf from the Government College, University of Faisalabad. He will deliver his talk on topic effect of aloe vera supplemented canola meal based diet on the growth, performance, and body composition of Catla fingerlings. Please, Zishan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. My name is Vishan Yusuf and I am student of MPhil Zoology, Government College University, Faisalabad. And first of all, I would like to thank Applied Zoological Society for providing me a platform to present my MPhil research work. And the title of my today presentation is Effects of Aloe Vera Supplemented Canola Meal Based Diet on Growth, Performance, and Body Composition of Catla fingerlings. First of all, fish and its products are required for global food security due to high nutritional value. And fish is good source of protein. And according to Food and Agriculture Organization, fish account for 17% of animal protein and 7% of total protein eaten worldwide. And aquaculture, which is rearing of aquatic animals, is the world's fastest growing food production system. And it is estimated that 82.1 million tons of production of fish in 2018, which was increased by 5.4% in previous 3 years. For better production of fish, different types of meals are used, like fish meal, which is good source of essential amino acids and highly palatable, contains digestible nutrients and free of anti-nutritional factors. But its prices are rising continuously, and aquaculturists are looking for alternative source of fish meal, like plant meal, because it is cost-effective and environment-friendly, and it is easily available throughout the year. The plant meal which I used in my research was canola meal, because it is good source of protein, and it also contains amino acids and essential minerals like selenium and phosphorus. And canola meal is the second most widely used as a source of protein after soybean meal. And catla, which is major Indian carp, it is also called thela, and it dominates the public and administrative sectors in Pakistan. The plant species which I used is aloe vera, and which is commonly called koar gandal in our language, and it is perennial tropical herb of Aloaceae family, and more than 400 different species of aloe vera are present, and these species are rich in biological active compounds. But in Pakistan, 4 species of aloe vera is present, and among them Aloe barbadensis is considered most biological active. And it is widely used in traditional medicines, drinks, and cosmetics. And it contains 17%, 75% active constituents like vitamins, amino acids, minerals, and antioxidants. And these compounds are present in aloe vera gel. And if we look at the composition of aloe vera gel, it contains water, polysaccharides, 20 of 22 necessary amino acids, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. It has also anti-inflammatory, anti-cancerous property, and literature proved that it improved growth and hematological parameter and immunity in fishes. So the purpose of my study was to check the most effective concentration of aloe vera, which can be used as feed additive in the diet of Indian major carp, especially catla. So materials and methods, first of all, fish and experimental conditions. 180 fingerlings of catla were purchased from government fish hatchery Satyana Road, Faisalabad, and these fingerlings were transported to Fish Nutrition Lab, Government College University, Faisalabad, where fingerlings were acclimatized for 2 weeks. These fingerlings were divided into 6 groups, and each group were further divided into 3 replicate, and each replicate were contained 12 fingerlings of catla. And during acclimatization, proper experimental conditions like pH, temperature were maintained. After that, gel was extracted. For gel extraction, fresh leaves of aloe vera plant were collected from local nursery, and these leaves were transported to Fish Nutrition Lab, where these leaves were washed with tap water, and after that, gel was extracted by standard protocol. After that, feed ingredients were purchased from local commercial feed mill and their chemical analysis were done, and diet were formed. In diets, six diets were formed which contain different concentration of aloe vera gel. And after that, when dough was formed, pellets were formed by passing through the dough in pelleting machine. After that, feeding protocol and sampling. Fishes were fed 2 times in a day according to 4% of their body weight. And trial duration was 70 days. After that, samples were collected from each tank, and after collection of sample, their gross assessment and proximate analysis were done. And at the end of experiment, statistical analysis was performed. First, for statistical analysis, one-way ANOVA was used. So here is the ingredients composition of test diets. Six aloe vera gel supplemented diets were formed, which contain 0%, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and 5% concentration of aloe vera, and other ingredients were also added at different concentrations. Here are some instruments which was used, like in case of body composition, for determination of crude protein, Jahaldal apparatus was used, and for determination of crude fat, Soxlet apparatus was used, and for determination of ash, electric furnace was used. And in case of growth study, weight gain, feed conversion ratio, and specific growth rate were determined through following formulae. Here is the results after 70 days of feeding trial. The results shows that 3% aloe vera supplemented diet improved growth performance, and maximum value of SGR were also observed at 3% aloe vera supplemented diet, and minimum value of FCR were observed at 3% aloe vera supplemented diet. And in case of body composition, maximum value of crude protein were observed at 3% aloe vera supplemented diet, which was 19.46, and maximum value of fat were also observed at 3% aloe vera supplemented diet, while ash and moisture were minimum at that supplementation. So what was the conclusion of my research? Present research revealed that Catla fed at 3% aloe vera supplemented canola meal based diet improved fish growth performance and body composition. Here are some references. Thank you very much for your attention. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you so much, Vishan Yusuf, for informative talk. Now moving towards our next presenter, Fakhri Sajid from a government college, University, Faisalabad. She will deliver her talk on topic methanolic extract of Withania somnifera escalates functional restoration in mouse model of peripheral nerve injury. Please, Fakhri Sajid.
Assalamualaikum. I am Fakhri Sajid from Department of Physiology, Government College, University, Faisalabad. Firstly, I'm highly obliged to the Department of Zoology for giving me the opportunity to present in the 4th International Conference on Applied Zoology 2021. The topic of my presentation is the role of methanolic extract of Indian ginseng Withania somnifera in promoting functional regain in mouse model of peripheral nerve injury. Let's start with the introduction. As we know, the nervous system is our command body system, and the central nervous system controls and coordinates all body function with the help of brain and spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system connects the central nervous system through the nerve fibers. Any damage to the peripheral nerves due to vehicle accident, laceration, or any other reason may result in the devastating neurological functional loss with unpredictable functional recovery despite optimal medical management. When an injury occurs, the nerve injury is followed by two sides of changes. First one is the proximal side of nerve injury, which includes degenerative changes and regenerative changes. Whereas at the distal side of the nerve injury, only bleeding degeneration occurs, which is necessary to promote the nerve regeneration. After an injury, the axon gets demyelinated and loses its power of conduction. Peripheral nerve injury usually undergoes muscular atrophy due to slow rate of regeneration, which is 1 to 3 millimeter per day. Injured axons usually required 3 months to reinnervate the target organs. Meanwhile, the target organs undergo muscular atrophy, which results in neurological function loss. Available treatments includes surgical intervention and non-surgical intervention, whereas non-surgical interventions are some medications, electrical nerve stimulation, and phytochemicals. And surgical interventions are direct nerve repair, nerve grafting, nerve transfer, nerve conduits, fibrin glue, and cell-based therapy. But both repairs from surgical interventions and non-surgical interventions are not capable of fully nerve regeneration. Moreover, they are time-consuming and expensive. Therefore, they cannot fully support the nerve regeneration after an injury. In order to improve the motor function recovery, we need to reduce the time required for the peripheral nerve regeneration. Phytochemicals, plants are full of bioactive compounds known as phytochemicals, and they have several pharmacological properties like antioxidative, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, antimicrobial, and neuroprotective. Along with these effects and having no side effects, there might be the possibility that they can accelerate the function recovery after a nerve injury. The aim and objective of this study was to assess that can Vidania somnifera can accelerate the function recovery for injured sciatic nerve. Vidania somnifera is a well-known plant for its various pharmacological activities. It is also known as poison gooseberry, skunk, and Indian ginseng, and it is reported to have effective antioxidative, anti-inflammatory, antipyretic, and many others. It is also effective in the Parkinson's disease and various other neurological disorders. We use the mouse model in which sciatic nerve was induced at mid-thigh region. After anesthesia, the compression was given to the sciatic nerve with the help of forceps. It mimics the human nerve injuries after road accidents. After injury, 100 milligram methanolic extract of Vidania somnifera root powder per kg body weight were given to the treatment group through the gouging until the end of the experiment. For analysis, different behavioral and biochemical parameters were performed. Behavioral analysis include food intake analysis, weight analysis, working track analysis, grip strength, and heart rate analysis. Biochemical analysis include total oxidative stress, total antioxidant capacity, and blood glucose measurement. We found some interesting results. There was observed that food intake was normal in all groups, confirming proper treatment, and there was no change in body weight, which means that treatment has no effect on the body weight. In the case of grip strength, it was observed that earlier force gain was observed in treated groups, and similarly, SFI also shows accelerated motor function recovery, which means the treatment groups was effective in motor function regain. For heart rate analysis, there was also reduced latency period, which means the sensory function restoration was gained in treatment groups. For blood glucose level measurement, it was observed that blood glucose level was decreased in treated group, which means this plant has glucose lowering effect. Lastly, the total antioxidant capacity and oxidative status was measured, which the observation shows that treated groups reduced oxidant level and increased the antioxidant capacity. Based on these results, we may say that Vidania of somnifera of roots offer meliorating effects on the functional recovery after an injury. But we need to identify the biotic molecules and characterization and further identification of signaling pathways. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you so much, Fakhri Sajid, for wonderful talk. Now moving towards our next presenter, Husna Mohsin from the Kohart University of Science and Technology. She will deliver her talk on topic molecular detection of mastitis and its impact on hematobiochemical parameters and milk leukocyte count in buffaloes of Vera Ismail Khan. Please, Husna Mohsin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Husna Mohsin, MPhil scholar from Department of Zoology, Kohart University of Science and Technology. Here I am presenting my research topic, which is molecular detection of mastitis and its impact on hematobiochemical parameters and milk leukocyte count in buffaloes of district DI Khan under the supervision of Dr. Kalimullah, assistant professor in our zoology department, and Dr. Kamal Shah from Faculty of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Gomal University, Niyai Khan. Presentation outline. This is how I'm presenting my research work. First, I will give brief introduction of my research work that will be followed by the gap analysis. Then we'll talk about the main objective, molecular methods that will be used in my research work. And later we will talk about the result and discussion, conclusion and recommendation, acknowledgement and references. Introduction. In Pakistan, buffaloes are the common livestock, playing an important role in national economy by producing milk, meat, and primary source of motive power for agriculture and rural transportation. Buffalo contribute around 68% milk, followed by the cattle, which is 27%, sheep, goat, and camel, which is 5% of total milk produced in the country. Pakistan is the world's second largest producer of buffalo milk after the United States. Mastitis is an inflammatory condition of mammary gland of lactating animal that lead to severe decrease in milk production, resulting in massive economic losses to the dairy industry. Bovine mastitis can be caused by the physical or chemical agents, but most of the cases is infectious and usually caused by bacteria. In mastitis, there is a break in blood-milk barrier along with impaired synthesis and secretory activity of the other epithelial cell, which alter the level of the most component of the milk. The change in hematobiochemical parameters and milk leukocyte count used is an important indicator of the physiological or pathological state of the animals. Hematobiochemical changes in the blood profile may lead to variation in RBCs, TLC, WBCs, hemoglobin, TCVs, and for biochemical parameters such as serum glucose, serum total protein, serum albumin, and creatinine alteration in mastitis infected animals. Study gap. In Pakistan, only one study has been done in Okhara and Sahiwal, district of the Punjab, whereas no research work has been conducted on hematobiochemical profile and milk leukocyte count in clinical and subclinical form of mastitis in buffaloes in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Therefore, the present study was designed to determine the hematobiochemical profile and changes in the milk leukocyte count in the buffaloes affected with mastitis. Objective. First objective of our research work was to find out the prevalence of mastitis and milk leukocyte count in buffaloes of study area. And second objective was to determine the impact of mastitis on hematobiochemical profile of the mastitis affected buffaloes. Methodology flowchart. Ethical approval. Ethical approval were obtained from the ethical committee of the CAST, study area and study population. The present study conducted in district DI Khan and study population were buffaloes. Sample collection. The sample collected from the jugular vein of buffaloes in anticoagulated blood container and transported to Faculty of Veterinary and Animal Sciences of Gomal University, DI Khan. California mastitis tests were also used to count the differential leukocytes in the milk, which were calculated by the standard counting method. Somatic cell count. The milk sample were also submitted for the somatic cell count and isolation and molecular detection for the identification of the bacteria. Hematobiochemical analysis and statistical analysis. Results. Or all prevalence of S. aureus bacteria, which is responsible for the mastitis. Total 98 samples were collected from the buffaloes of DI Khan, in which 26 were positive, and their prevalence rate is 0.05. The main values of hematological parameter of control and mastitic buffaloes. For hematological analysis, the collected sample of mastitis affected buffaloes were tested for the hemoglobin, PCVs, transient erythroblastopenia count, total leukocyte count, granulocyte, lymphocyte, and the monocytes, in which granulocytes amounts are very high in clinical mastitic buffaloes, and the monocyte amount are very low. Values of biochemical parameters of control and mastitic buffaloes. Different parameters were also checked from the serum sample, and it is used, and these parameters are checked to the biochemical parameters through the automated blood chemistry analyzer, in which the alanine transaminase, aspartate aminotransferase, total protein, calcium, phosphorus, chlorine, and sodium were checked, in which chlorine amount are very high in the clinical mastitic buffaloes, and total protein amounts are very low. Main values of milk electric conductivity, somatic cell count, and control, and different leukocyte count of control and mastitic buffaloes. To check the leukocyte, different leukocyte, these tests are performed, in which different leukocyte were checked. In clinical mastitic buffaloes, the neutrophils amount are very high, and the monocyte amount and the macrophages are lower than the neutrophils count. Conclusion and recommendations. Regarding the prevalence of Staphylococcus aureus, the disease mastitis is highly prevalent in the buffaloes of DI Khan. The milk leukocyte count is considered the best biomarker for the inflammatory reaction and other infection. The increased number of milk leukocyte is present in a present study could be due to microbial infection. In other, as these are the major part of the immune response of the animal, it was concluded that the California mastitis test, electric conductivity, and somatic cell count were ideal for early detection of subclinically infected quarters and aid in the selection of dairy animals for either segregation or therapy. Acknowledgement. I will be very thankful to my supervisor, Dr. Kalimullah, Assistant Professor in Department of Zoology ICAZ, and Dr. Kamal Shah, Assistant Professor of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Gomal University, DI Khan. And thanks to all faculty members and lab fellows. References. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Husna Mohsin from the Kohart University of Science and Technology for sharing your research work at ICAZ-2021. Now moving towards our next presenter, Ikra from the Fatma Jinnah Women University. She will deliver her talk on topic Association of XPC Polymorphism with Breast Cancer Risk. Please, Ikra.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Ikra, PhD Biotechnology student from the Department of the Environmental Sciences, Fatma Jinnah, Women University, Rawalpindi. The title of my research article is Association of XPC Polymorphism with Breast Cancer Risk. Breast cancer is one of the most common malignancy throughout the world, and its incidence is increasing day by day since the early 80s. It is a multifactorial disease affected by various factors like BMI, genetics, reproductive factors, age, smoking, diet, alcohol intake, etc. Different exogenous and endogenous sources can cause DNA damage like X-rays, ultraviolet, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, oxidative and hydrolytic DNA damage. Therefore, cell possesses different types of repair mechanisms to detect and repair damaged DNA or induce cell death if the damage is beyond repair. Nucleotide excision repair pathway is a part of DNA repair machinery which removes helix, distorting DNA lesions, and thus help in maintenance of the genome integrity. There are more than 30 proteins in nerve pathway. They all act in sequence to counter the mutagenic effects in various steps comprising number one, DNA damage recognition, and then protein binding to damaged part, then excision of that part, and DNA fragments reconstruction. There are two pathways for the removal of nucleotide excision repair related DNA lesions. Both these pathways differ only in the first DNA damage recognition step. These are transcription coupled repair and global excision repair. In transcription coupled repair pathway, damage recognition occurs by stalling RNA polymerase II, while global genomic pathway acts independently by particular damage sensing proteins. The first objective of the study was to find the association of XPC polymorphism with breast cancer risk among Pakistani population, and then was to analyze the distributional differences of clinico-pathological demographic factors and XPC polymorphism among breast cancer patients and normal individuals. The third one was to find the association of XPC polymorphism with overall survival, and the last one was to evaluate the survival distributions in patients which were administered different classes of the chemotherapeutic drugs. Then is the methodology of the research article. Genomic analysis was done by tetra primer amplification refractory mutation system. Blood samples was taken with the consent of the patients and the hospital management, and the DNA was extracted from the blood samples, and it was confirmed through gel electrophoresis. Primer 1 was software was used for the primer designing of the tetraome PCR, and after tetraome PCR samples were sequenced for the confirmation of the mutation. Statistical analysis was done through different tests, like Pearson chi-square test was used for the XPC variants with distributional frequency of clinico-pathological and epidemiological factors. And for survival distribution, Kaplan-Meier test was applied, and survival differences were checked through log rank test, and chi-square test was applied for frequency of chemotherapeutic drugs in breast cancer with XPC polymorphism determination. Association of XPC polymorphism with overall survival was checked through Cox regression model. It is a table showing the association between the general characteristics and XPC variants with the breast cancer risk. Different factors like age at menarche, obesity, positive family history, and positive marital status. All these were statistically significant with the breast cancer risk, and the XPC variant polymorphism was associated with the breast cancer, and genotyping of the XPC variant showed that RS 2227999 had 48.6% homozygous wild type, homozygous mutant double G was 37.4, and homozygous mutant double A was 37.4, and heterozygous mutant genotype GA was 14%. Polymorphism found to be statistically associated with the risk of the breast cancer. These figures are the electrophotogram of the Tetron PCR amplified product for XPC RS 2227999, where AA is representing the homozygous mutant, double G homozygous wild, and GA heterozygous mutant. Overall survival was not statistically significant for XPC polymorphism, probably due to the short follow-up time period. And this table is showing the genotyping frequency with the chemotherapeutic drugs. We were unable to find any association between chemo drugs and XPC genotyping, although two of the classes, cytotoxic drugs and cytotoxic drugs together with the taxanes, have high number of the polymorphism, but results were statistically non-significant, probably due to smaller sample size. Then concluding the research study, different factors like obesity, family history, and postmarital status were associated with the increased risk of breast cancer, and overall survival was not statistically significant, probably due to the short follow-up time period, while the genotyping of the XPC polymorphism GA showed its involvement in breast cancer development, inferring it as a potential risk factor for incidence of the breast cancer risk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ikra, from the Fatma Jinnah Women's University, for sharing your knowledge. Now moving towards our last presenter of this session, Dilara Noor Kaplan. She will deliver her talk on the topic malnutrition in children in the COVID-19 pandemic. Please, Dilara Noor Kaplan.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dilara Noor Kaplan. I'm a research assistant at Karabük University, Turkey. Today, I'm going to present the topic malnutrition in children in the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll mention the COVID-19 pandemic, its process and results, effects of the pandemic around the world, malnutrition in children, and the impact of COVID-19 on malnutrition in children. The pandemic caused by the new coronavirus was first identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019, and the World Health Organization declared the outbreak of COVID-19 as a pandemic in March 2020. As of 24th of October, over 243 million confirmed cases and over 4.9 million deaths had been reported. Various measures have been taken to prevent the spread around the world. Besides that, social distancing and isolation are at the top. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused not only a social but also an economic recession all over the world. Global estimates from middle 2020 suggested that economic contractions and food supply chain disruptions had led to 95 million people falling into extreme poverty and had contributed to increased household food insecurity. And since then, the economic growth forecasts have worsened. The pandemic and pandemic response have resulted in millions of people losing their sources of income. Households have changed to less expensive sources of calories, including non-perishable ultra-processed foods, starchy staples, cereals, oils, And also they had to reduce the consumption of nutrient-rich fruit and vegetables and animal-sourced foods such as fish, dairy, meat. And these shifts lead to poorer quality diets, which can increase the risks of undernutrition. The association between undernutrition and reduced immune function is well known, and more children are becoming malnourished due to the deterioration quality of their diets. Children, the interruptions in nutrition and other essential services affected children, especially in low-income and middle-income countries. Undernutrition during pregnancy and early childhood is known to damage the immune response. Children with inadequate nutritional intake have lower immune systems and are more prone to diseases and malnutrition. As in other infectious diseases, when the nutritional status is poor, the possibility of protection from COVID-19 infection and its complications decreases. So we can say that the COVID-19 pandemic is a public health crisis that has exacerbated worldwide malnutrition and related conditions. When it comes to pediatric malnutrition, it's defined as an imbalance in nutrition requirements and intake, resulting in negative growth, neurocognitive and body functions, and other clinical outcomes. Malnutrition covers two broad groups of conditions. One is undernutrition and the other is overweight, obesity, and diet-related non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes. The data we see released by WHO in 2019, World Health Organization in 2019, and according to them, 144 million children under 5 suffer from stunting, and 47 million children under 5 were vested, and also I didn't add it here, but 14.3 million of them, of this vested part, were severely vested. There's also an emerging phase of malnutrition, childhood overweight and obesity. There were 38 million overweight children globally, and an increase of 8 million since 2000. The nutritional impacts of the COVID-19 crisis could have massive long-term productivity consequences that could extend to the future generations. Poor nutrition during early life stunts both physical and cognitive development, affects schooling performance and adult productivity, increases the risks of overweight, obesity, and diet-related non-communicable diseases later in life, and triggers the intergenerational transmission of malnutrition. So, in conclusion, COVID-19 has negatively affected the lives of many children, and measures such as developing new policies, including food aid, providing school menus to students free of charge, and performing health screenings in schools should and are expected to be implemented by the administrators as a state policy. Multi-sectoral action should mitigate waste increases by strengthening and expanding social safety nets and supporting local food and agricultural systems. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dilara Noor Kaplan, for wonderful talk. I hope you all have enjoyed this session by listening to the researcher from different institutes. Thank you for your attention. Our plenary session will be start in a while. Our respected keynote speaker from Turkey and Italy will join us in this session, so stay connected with us. Thank you.